My name is Emily Carter. I'm 25 years old, but some days I feel much older. Life has been heavy on my shoulders for as long as I can remember. I live in a tiny apartment in the city, just one small room with a broken heater and thin walls that let in every sound from the street. At night, I sleep on a second-hand mattress on the floor. The ceiling leaks when it rains, and the light in the bathroom flickers like it's about to give up. Every morning, I wake up before the sun rises. I catch the first bus downtown to work the morning shift at a small cafe. I serve coffee to people who barely look me in the eye. They're in suits and heels talking about meetings and weekend plans. I smile and nod while my feet ache inside cheap shoes I've worn too long. By the time I finish my shift, I smell like burnt coffee and tiredness. But my day isn't over. In the afternoon, I clean offices in a tall glass building. I see the world from behind a vacuum cleaner. People pass by me like I'm invisible. I mop floors, empty trash cans, scrub toilets. I do this 6 days a week. The pay is low, but I need every dollar. Why? Because my father is sick. He has a condition that keeps getting worse. He can't work anymore. He needs medication, doctor visits, and special care. Insurance doesn't cover everything, and the bills come faster than I can earn. I try to hide the stress from him. I tell him not to worry, that I've got it under control, but the truth is, I'm drowning. There are days I don't eat properly so I can afford his medicine. Nights I lie awake staring at the ceiling, doing the math in my head. Rent, electricity, food, hospital bills, debt. The numbers never add up. I have no time for friends, no dreams, no peace. Life isn't just hard. It feels like a fight. I'm slowly losing. I've forgotten what it's like to laugh without worry or sleep without fear of tomorrow. One Friday evening, my friend Mia texted me, "Come out tonight, just one party. You need a break." I almost said no. I was exhausted, still in my cafe uniform, and my hands smelled like bleach. But something inside me broke that night. I didn't want to go home and face the silence again. I didn't want to eat instant noodles and listen to the neighbors argue through the walls. So I said yes. I borrowed a dress from Mia, a simple black one that fit me okay. I combed my hair, put on a bit of lipstick, and tried to look like someone who belonged in a better life. The party was in a mansion on the edge of the city. The house was huge, glowing with golden lights. Inside, everything sparkled. Chandeliers, marble floors, crystal glasses filled with champagne. People laughed with confidence, wearing clothes that probably cost more than I made in a month. I stood near the wall, feeling small. My dress looked too plain. My shoes felt too worn. I tried to smile, but I felt like an outsider, a girl who didn't belong. And that's when I saw him. Across the room stood a tall man in a tailored dark suit. He didn't move much, just stood there with a quiet kind of power. His hair was neat, his jaw sharp, his expression unreadable. He didn't laugh or mingle like the others. He just watched, and he was watching me. Our eyes met. His gaze didn't look away. It stayed locked on me for longer than it should have. I felt a chill run through me, not of fear, but of something strange, something I couldn't name. His name, I later learned, was Mr. James Blackwood. And that night, in that strange, beautiful house, everything began to change. His name was Mr. James Blackwood, a name I had never heard before that night, but once I saw him, I couldn't look away. He had the kind of presence that filled a room without needing to speak. He didn't smile. He didn't laugh. But people moved aside when he walked by, like the air around him was heavier, colder. He walked with slow, certain steps, like a man who had already decided how the world should work. I noticed how the others looked at him. Respect, maybe fear. He wasn't just rich. He was powerful and dangerous, maybe, or maybe that was just something in his eyes. Mr. Blackwood didn't speak to anyone for a long time, but when the party started to thin out, he came toward me. I didn't know what to do. My heart pounded in my chest like it wanted to run away. He stopped just a step away and said quietly, "You look like someone who doesn't belong here." I opened my mouth to speak, but I didn't know what to say. He didn't wait. "Do you need a ride home?" he asked. His voice was smooth, deep, calm. It was raining again. I had no umbrella and no money for a taxi, so I nodded. "Yes. Thank you." His car was waiting outside, black, long, and silent. It looked like something from a movie. Inside, the leather smelled new. He didn't play music. He didn't talk. He just drove through the rain. After a few minutes, he asked, "Are you hungry?" I was. I hadn't eaten since morning. I said yes, and he took a sudden turn off the road. We stopped at a tall building. At the top was a restaurant with glass windows looking over the city. The place was quiet, elegant, too expensive for someone like me, but they treated him like a king. He ordered food for both of us. I tried to eat slowly, but I was nervous. What was I doing here with a man I just met? What did he want? He didn't ask many questions, just watched. And then, after we ate, he leaned back and said, "Emily, I can see your life is hard." I froze. I know that look. The tired eyes, the quiet hunger. "You've been struggling too long." I nodded slowly. No one ever said that to me before. Not like that. He continued, "I don't have family. I live alone. I don't need love. But sometimes I want someone around. I want peace. Company." He paused, then looked me straight in the eye. "I can give you everything you need. Money, a home, care for your father. You won't have to work anymore. You'll be safe." I couldn't speak. "All I ask is your time. Be with me. Stay close. Don't ask questions about my work. Just be mine." His words didn't sound romantic. They were cold, like a business offer, like a contract. He wasn't offering love. He was offering a life without struggle, but also a life tied to him. It felt strange, dangerous, unnatural, but also like a way out. I thought of my father, of my tired hands, my broken shoes, my empty fridge, and I looked at the man in front of me. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't trying to charm me. He was just waiting, quiet and serious. A rich, powerful man was offering to save me, but at a price. I took a deep breath, and I said yes. After I said yes to Mr. Blackwood, my life changed faster than I could understand. One day, I was wiping down cafe counters and riding late buses. The next day, I was stepping into a life of wealth and silence. He moved me into a house, no, a mansion, just outside the city. It had tall white pillars, floors that shone like mirrors, and rooms I could get lost in. There were no neighbors, just trees, gates, and cameras. Everything I owned fit into one suitcase. But suddenly I had closets full of dresses, shoes still in boxes, and jewelry that sparkled too brightly. He gave me a credit card. "Use it for anything you want," he said. But I didn't want anything. I didn't know how to want anymore. The first night, I sat on the edge of a bed bigger than my entire old apartment. I stared at the walls. Everything was perfect, and I had never felt so out of place. Mr. Blackwood was not what I expected. He didn't try to touch me. He didn't ask for affection. He gave me a separate room and said clearly, "I want company, not romance." He had rules. "Don't ask about my business. Be loyal to me and only me. No guests. No talking to anyone about our arrangement." Then he gave me a paper, a contract. It said I would live with him, be his companion, and in return, he would support me, financially, completely. It also said I must never speak of him or our life to anyone, under any condition. I held the pen in my hand. It felt heavier than it should. I thought about my father, still in pain, still waiting for help. I thought about how this man had given me everything in one moment. I signed, and just like that, I became part of his world. At first, I told myself it was just for survival. I told myself it wasn't personal. But things weren't simple. Mr. Blackwood was always calm, always controlled. He read in the evenings, walked the halls like a shadow, and made calls behind closed doors. Sometimes he didn't speak to me for hours. Sometimes he would stare out the window with eyes full of something dark and distant. But there were moments, small ones, when he was different. Once I dropped a glass and cut my hand. He rushed to help, held my hand with quiet care, and whispered, "Be careful." His touch was gentle. His eyes were soft for just a second, and then, just as quickly, he became cold again. It confused me. He had saved me, given me freedom from poverty, but I didn't feel free. The house was quiet, beautiful, and full of secrets. I was his guest, but also something else. A part of his life, but never truly close. Sometimes I caught him watching me, not with desire, but with something deeper, as if I reminded him of something he lost, or something he never had. I told myself not to feel anything. This was a deal, a contract, not love. But my heart didn't always listen. At night, when the house went still, I would sit in the dark and wonder, who was James Blackwood really, and what had I agreed to? Life inside Mr. Blackwood's mansion was quiet but not peaceful. Days passed like slow-moving clouds. I wandered through grand rooms filled with expensive furniture, tall windows, and books no one seemed to read. The silence echoed more than sound ever could. One rainy afternoon, I found myself in his study. It was the only room that felt truly lived in. Books stacked on tables, old maps framed on the walls, and a strong smell of leather and ink. I wasn't supposed to be in there, but something drew me in. That's when I saw it. On his desk, tucked behind a globe, was a photo in a silver frame. A woman, young, dark-haired, with a smile that felt too real for such a cold house. Her eyes were full of warmth. Her presence was haunting. Who was she? I stared for a long time, then quietly backed out. But the image stayed in my mind. That night I saw Mr. Blackwood in the hallway. His face was unreadable, as always. I gathered courage and asked, "James, who is the woman in the photo on your desk?" He stopped walking. His whole body changed. His shoulders stiffened. His eyes turned sharp. "It's no one," he said coldly. "An old memory. Not important." His voice was final. He walked past me without another word. The next day, the photo was gone, taken from the desk, hidden, like it had never existed. But it had. I saw it, and his reaction had told me everything. It was important, too important to talk about. There was someone else in the house, Mrs. Langley, the housekeeper. She had worked for Mr. Blackwood for years. She was quiet, professional, always polite. But I noticed the way she sometimes looked at me, soft, almost sad. One day, as we sat in the kitchen drinking tea, she said something that chilled me. "Miss Emily," she began quietly, "you seem like a good girl. Please, be careful in this house. Mr. Blackwood is a man with heavy shadows. Not everything here is what it seems." "What do you mean?" I asked, but she only shook her head. "You'll see. Just don't ignore your heart." After that, I started to notice more. Doors that were always locked. Phone calls that ended the moment I entered the room. People who came and went late at night, never introduced, never explained. And sometimes, when I passed his office late at night, I heard his voice. Not gentle, not calm, but sharp, angry, speaking to someone I couldn't see. It was like living inside a beautiful box with hidden compartments. I saw only the parts I was allowed to see. But my curiosity was growing. Who was the woman in the photo? Why did Mrs. Langley seem afraid? And what, exactly, was Mr. Blackwood hiding behind his silence? The deeper I stayed in his world, the more I realized I was no longer just a guest. I was becoming a part of something much bigger and much darker than I had ever imagined. I couldn't stop thinking about the photo. The woman's face stayed with me. Her smile, her warmth, her eyes. She didn't belong in this cold, silent mansion. She felt like sunlight in a place built from stone. Days passed. I kept my questions quiet, but my mind was loud. One morning, James called me into his office. He was dressed sharply, as always, his face calm, unreadable. "Emily," he said, "I need to ask something. For business reasons. I need us to be legally married." I blinked. "You said this wasn't about love," I said carefully. "It's not," he replied. "This is a paper marriage, a formality. It helps with an important deal I am closing. Nothing will change between us." His voice was smooth, practiced. He made it sound simple, logical, cold. But I didn't feel cold. He was asking me to become his wife, not in heart, but on paper. Another step into his world, a step I couldn't take back. I remembered the contract I had signed, how it made me feel like a possession. This was the same, but bigger. A marriage wasn't just paper. It meant something, even if he didn't think so. Still, I nodded. "Okay," I said. The wedding was quiet. No family, no friends. Just us, a lawyer, and Mrs. Langley as witness. I wore white. He wore black. We signed the documents in silence. I didn't feel like a bride. I felt like I was sealing a deal, And afterward, I was no longer just Emily. I was Mrs. Blackwood. People began treating me differently. At events, they smiled at me with shallow eyes. Some were curious, some jealous. But all of them believed the same lie, that I was the chosen one, the young wife of the rich, mysterious Mr. Blackwood. I smiled too, but inside, I felt like a stranger in my own life. Then it happened. One afternoon, I decided to surprise James at his office. I brought him lunch in a paper bag, hoping to feel a little normal again. When I arrived, the front desk was in chaos. A woman stood there shouting. Her voice was sharp with anger and heartbreak. "He promised me," she screamed. "He told me we would get married." I froze. The woman turned and saw me, her face twisted. "You," she cried, "you took my place." She was older than me, but beautiful. Her eyes burned with betrayal. "His name is James Blackwood," she said. "He was mine for years. He promised me everything. Then he disappeared. Then you happened." Her name was Clara. She was the woman before me. And suddenly everything began to fall apart. Back at the mansion, James acted like nothing had happened. He didn't mention Clara, didn't explain. Just poured himself a drink and asked if I had a good day, but I couldn't pretend. Later that night, when he left his phone on the table, I looked. There were messages from women, thinking of you. Call me tonight. Miss you. My stomach turned. He said our marriage was for business, that he didn't want love, but he had lied, not just to me, but to others. I was not special. I was not chosen. I was a piece on his board, a name he needed, a role he used. I thought of Clara, of Mrs. Langley's warning, of the photo hidden in the drawer. I realized something painful and true. I didn't know the man I had married, not at all. He had built his life on secrets, and now I was one of them, but no more. I needed to find the truth, all of it. I couldn't pretend anymore. The lies, the silence, the women, it all became too heavy to carry. I had stepped into Mr. Blackwood's world like a guest, but now I was trapped in it like a ghost. A wife on paper, a secret in his house, a stranger in my own story. But I wasn't weak anymore. Clara's outburst had opened something inside me, a door I could never close again. I needed answers. I needed truth. So I made a decision. I hired someone, a private investigator, quiet, professional, and expensive. I used James's money to pay for it, his money, the same way he paid for my silence, my home, my life. "I want to know everything," I told the investigator, his past, his business, the woman in the photo, all of it. He nodded once. "You'll have the truth." 2 weeks later, he returned with a file. I sat alone in my room and opened it, and my world shattered again. James Blackwood was not just a businessman. His wealth came from shell companies and offshore accounts. His hands were not clean. He had made deals with dangerous people, hidden money through fake names, and used women, not just emotionally, but legally. Their names helped cover his tracks, move his assets, protect him. And me? I wasn't just a companion. I wasn't just a paper wife. Without knowing it, I had signed more than a marriage certificate. One of his companies, one of the biggest, was placed legally in my name the day we married. That made me the legal owner. He had probably meant to switch it back quietly later, but he hadn't. And now I held something he didn't want me to have: leverage. Suddenly, I saw everything clearly: the control, the contract, the charm. It was never about me. It was always about what he needed. But he made one mistake. He underestimated me. I spent days reviewing the documents, learning everything about the company. I stopped being afraid. I started becoming something else: prepared. Then came the day. 1 year after our marriage, our anniversary. James walked into the house with a small smile. "Happy anniversary, Emily." I stood in the same study where I once saw the photo of the woman he hid. This time, I wasn't quiet. "I know everything, James," I said. "About Clara, about the other women, about the company, about the money, and about what you've done." His face froze. His mask slipped for just a second. "You shouldn't," I cut him off. "I also know that the law says the company in my name is mine, fully. You used me, but now I have the power." He laughed, cold and sharp. "You think you can beat me?" "I don't need to beat you," I said, placing a folder on the desk. "I just need to walk away. Divorce papers. Signed." He stared at them like they were poison. "You're making a mistake," he hissed. "No," I said, calm. "You did. You taught me how to survive, how to read the rules, how to fight quiet wars. And now, I'm done playing your game." He stood there, furious, but silent, because he knew I was right. I wasn't just the girl he rescued. I was the woman who walked into his world and came out stronger. I left the mansion that night. No bags, no clothes, no jewelry. I didn't need them. I had my name and a company that was now mine. The woman I used to be, the tired, broken Emily, was gone. I had walked through fire, and I had come out the other side powerful. It was the last day of my life with James Blackwood, and the first day of the life I chose for myself. But was it truly over? Some nights I wonder if hell come back, if I've seen the last of the man with the cold eyes, if there's more to his story and more to mine. Because in a world built on secrets, the truth is never the final door.